So welcome to our Indivisible Illinois Twitter training. This is going to be a down and dirty, quick and fast guide to how to use Twitter for political activism. And we are going to start by talking about the absolute basics, because some of you who are watching this, that's why you're here, is you want to see the absolute basics. And naturally, my Twitter window crashed, because what kind of a Zoom in 2021 would it be if there weren't technical problems that are annoying and should have been handled, right? So let me restart my share. Share. Oh, come now. Here's Twitter. Okay. Share my Twitter screen. Okay. We are looking at Twitter. And so if you are going to tweet for political activism, one thing that the group who you're with maybe has done is given you a toolkit, and then you're copying and pasting those tweets into Twitter and sending them out. You probably already know how to do that, but just in case, we're going just so basic here. You come to twitter.com, up here at the very top, what's happening, you click on it and you say, this is my awesome tweet, and you spell it right. Here's my hashtag. And someone lovely I'm tagging. Why? Oh, that's why. Okay. So I did three things there. First of all, here is your basic text, and that's in black. This is the message that you're sending out. Next is the hashtag, and the hashtag has the little in front of it. And a hashtag, what it's all about, we'll get to in a second. The third thing is I added somebody, and not added ADD, added AT''D. I sent an at message, because this is a little at symbol. So if I wanted Chris Hayes to see my tweet, or if I wanted my lovely co-host Rose Colasino to see my tweet, you would at them, and then this tweet would show up in their notifications because you've added them. It's also a way of directing your conversation, and that's a little bit more advanced. So that is basic tweeting. And then to send it out, you hit tweet. And as I was typing, you may have noticed down here, there's this little circle. And the more I tweet, the more that little blue line gets bigger. And this represents 280 characters, because that's your maximum. So if I add some more, you can see the blue line getting bigger, right? And so that tells you how much of your 280 characters you've used. Now, let's say I want to add indivisible.org. The cool thing about Twitter is that if you add a website, and whether this is like you're trying to direct somebody to your own website, you're trying to direct somebody to a Washington Post article, you're trying to direct somebody to somebody else's tweet, whatever it is, you don't need to type in the HTTPS hash, blah, 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 all that stuff. That is not needed. You can just go ahead and type the straight indivisible.org. And you'll see that what happens is it pulls this feed. And whatever indivisible.org has said it wants you to see when somebody's tweeting, this is what shows up. And if you, let's say, maybe you don't want to do that, you can always, and let's say, for example, that you're sending out 15 tweets tonight, and all of them are sending people to indivisible.org, but you don't want your thread to just be like a monotonous stream of this graphic. You can always, and so you want to add a different graphic to illustrate your tweet. You can click out of this. It will still keep the link live up here, indivisible.org, and now you can add a graphic, or you can add a GIF, sometimes known as a GIF, depending on whether you are a potato or a potato kind of a person. This little icon here, if you click it, it'll open up your desktop, and now you can go find something about voting. So here's a screenshot to get out and vote. So I can add that, and now that image is added to my tweet. Or if I don't like that one, I can add a GIF. And there's some other stuff you can do down here, but we're going to leave it alone for now. And then let's imagine that, and then if you get rid of your image, it'll come back to what the website said. And then we'll imagine you're done and you'd hit tweet, and now your lovely tweet is sent. Twitter 101. Next, if you are participating in a political campaign, and that's why you're tweeting, and I'm going to delete out of here because I don't want to, whoops, that took me out of Twitter. Very likely, and what's going to be happening tonight is that people they'll say that they are tweeting on a hashtag. What that means is that people are using the same hashtag, and that is a way of creating a container for what you're talking about. So tonight is April 28th, 2021, and we're going to be watching Joe Biden's first address to Congress. And so it's his 100th day in office. And so there will be a lot of hashtag 100 days tonight. Hashtag 100 days. And so if you want to go on Twitter and see what other people are saying about Biden's first 100 days or about his speech, you would, let me get rid of that, you would go into your search, which is over here, this little magnifying glass. It's the same search icon as on every kind of website. And you go up to search Twitter and you type in hashtag 100 days. And now Twitter actually autofills a couple of other options, 100 days with Biden, 100 days of code. And this tells you the kinds of things that people are already tweeting about tonight. So we're going to say 100 days, and then you have some options to look at the top tweets, the latest or most recent tweets, or you can also, if there was a person whose Twitter handle was 100 days, you could look for it here. And so now you're in this thread. And so you can just scroll through these tweets and you can like it if you want it. You can scroll to another one from President, and these are actually people that are showing up. So here's President Biden's Twitter handle that we could follow. I'm already following him. And then here's this other Twitter handle for 100 Days of Code. I don't know who that is. But then our Congressperson, Marie Newman, has tweeted. So I'm going to hit her up with a retweet. And you do that by clicking on this little arrow down here. You hit retweet. And you can either retweet it, which means you're just going to send out her exact message into your feed, or you can do a quote tweet. And the quote tweet means, which is what I'm going to do, and say, "You and me both, Congresswoman," because her tweet says that she's looking forward to hearing the speech tonight. Everyone who's cool will be tweeting at hashtag Indivisible IL. And then I'm going to add a little emoji on there. Where's my sunglasses? Yeah. Okay. So this is a quote retweet. So I'm retweeting what the Congresswoman said, and I'm adding my own thing. And I like that, and I'm actually going to go ahead and send it out as a tweet. And so what we're doing tonight is we are all what we're all doing tonight is we are tweeting on the hashtag Indivisible IL. And what that will do is it will, it basically creates, it's the Twitter equivalent of like a Facebook group when we're using it this way, because nobody in Nebraska or nobody that like works for Apple, I don't know, is going to be tweeting on Indivisible Illinois or Indivisible IL tonight. Whereas tons and tons and tons of people will be tweeting on hashtag 100 days. So by tweeting hashtag Indivisible IL, you are joining the group of the rest of us who will be tweeting about Indivisible IL, because it's like our own little private hashtag that we're using for that purpose. And I feel like there was something else that I wanted to point that I want to make, but let me pause here and see who has questions or comments with what I've covered so far. And I'm not checking the chat, so I suppose I could do that. Anybody have a question? You all look very smart and very much like you know what you're, like you already know all this. Does anybody want to add their own 2 cents about how to tweet for political activism? Has anybody thought of anything while I've been talking? I mean, granted, I've been talking about Twitter 101 here, but.
I'll say something that I've learned recently is that if you're searching for hashtags for campaigns, you can search that hashtag in Google, and there are different websites that will show you the most popular hashtags that are similar to it. So if you're tweeting on a specific issue, you don't have to think up the hashtags yourself. You can find out the ones that are popular and sort of think about it like a mailing address, as you were describing, Julie, where Julia, where you use the most popular one and then you use the one that's most local, so you get your followers and the popular people engaged.
Awesome.
Nicole, can you give us a couple of examples of like a campaign or issue that you typically search on?
Well, right now I'm working on a campaign called May for Voters, and we're focusing on Jim Crow 2.0 and voter suppression tactics. And there are tons of hashtags out there for that. And for me, what was really interesting was trying to discern which ones are being used by the right and which ones are being used by the left, and which ones are recent. So Jim Crow 2.0 is a recent term that's being used by Fair Fight and other Georgia organizations, and it's not super popular yet. There's hashtag Jim Crow 2, hashtag Jim Crow the word 2, hashtag Jim Crow 2 with the word O. So we're using hashtag Jim Crow, just the number 2, because I also do believe that shorter hashtags are more effective.
Generally. And they also use up few of your 280 characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in the few minutes we have left here, what I also wanted to talk about is how to be most effective with your tweets. Because we get this a lot. People will say, I don't tweet very much. I don't have very many followers. Can I be very helpful? And the answer is yes. When we are tweeting on a given hashtag, so tonight we're tweeting on Indivisible IL. And it's the hashtag, by the way, not the, we do also, of course, have the Twitter channel Indivisible IL, but we're tweeting on the hashtag Indivisible IL. And so every time that you send out a tweet with that hashtag, it creates, let's say that you've got 200 followers. It adds 200 impressions to our hashtag. So that is a way of amplifying our hashtag and to increase our total number of impressions. And then so simply sending it out adds to our impressions. But the next thing that you can do, and this is a strategy that we have been developing, is a strategy for what we call hunted tweets. And so, for example, and my Marie Newman tweet went away. That's a bummer, because I was going to retweet her. Because when somebody very influential puts out a tweet, and that will be happening a lot tonight, when somebody very influential puts out a tweet, if we catch it right after they've sent it, we can jump in, I or one of our other hunters can jump in with a comment. And then we send the link to that comment out to all of you, or if you come and find it, if you're following the hashtag. And if you amplify it just by liking it or retweeting my comment, now what happens, so let's say, for example, that Marie Newman is doing a generic thing about I'm watching Joe Biden tonight. And let's say that what we're really wanting to amplify is how people can call their congressperson to encourage them to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, just to make something up. And so Marie Newman's tweet is fairly generic, but then my comment gives the direct action to who's reading. And by a lot of people liking my comment, what happens is that then my comment goes up in the algorithm. So all the people that are following Marie, and she's influential, so she's got a lot of people, are much more likely to see that comment of mine that has the related action. This is especially helpful when what we're doing is voter registration efforts, because, you know, Marie Newman and John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock and so forth, they can't just be tweeting out all day, every day, here's where you go to register, right? They've got to be tweeting about issues and whatnot. So we were supporting them by sneaking in underneath their issue-based tweet with the directions about actually how to go do that. So that is a fairly high-level strategic piece, but you as a Twitterer, even if you don't have very many followers or you really don't know what you're doing, if all you do is go onto our hashtag, Indivisible IL, and just like everything that people are sending out, it amplifies and elevates our tweets in the various algorithms, which is the point.
Julia, I want to flag you. It is 7 o'clock, so if we can finish up, that would be great. I think that people might be coming in slowly because this is an unusual time. We usually start at 8, but yeah, go ahead and finish up, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say it was 6:59 and now it's 7, or at least according to my clock. And so, and I also see that we've got Bill has joined us. Welcome, Mr. Davis, Mr. NWS OFA. And as long as there aren't others who have joined us yet, and before we end the recording for this, I can stop sharing my screen. Before we end the recording of this Twitter training, are there any other questions or comments? Bill, do you want to add anything? You are certainly somebody who has changed your Twitter familiarity significantly. Do you want to share with people who might be watching this recording what you've learned and how easy it is, and give your words of encouragement? You're muted, Bill.
I am. Okay, so I was just saying, I am not a Twitterer. I am a retweeter. So I stalk people like Julia and people like Rose, and I retweet what they tweet. And that's very easy. And then I've gotten a little daring in the last few months, and I've actually, when I retweet, I hit the little heart, and I signify that I like what they're tweeting. And then I got a little bit more daring, and I actually replied. And I could put little hashtags about our group at NWSOFA, or I could put hashtags that are the current ones at TWIL and at Indivisible Illinois, and add little comments. And I guess they call those tweets. But it's been kind of fun. I see people actually retweeting what I retweeted. So I've taken a very easy way. And I love what Julia does as a hunter. She finds some great tweets. And I've written on those tweets. I've retweeted them. And we probably have used the word Deborah Messing. She actually retweeted one of my little charts that I added. Yay. And so I am learning some new tricks, but very slowly. So I plan tonight to just kind of ride along and see what people are doing and add little comments and little replies.
I want to welcome everyone that's coming in for the 7 o'clock meeting. We are finishing off our 6:30 meeting, which Julia did an amazing job training everyone on Twitter. It has been recorded, so if you missed it and you'd like to share it with your teams, I think she'd be willing to sell it to you, possibly for free. So Julia, any final words while we transition here?
The only thing I wanted to say is that based upon what Bill just said, yes, it is the Twitter gold when we get a retweet from somebody very influential. And Deborah Messing has retweeted us a number of times, and we've gotten a number of other people as well. And the secret to making that happen is this hunted tweet strategy that I said before. So I can't emphasize enough how helpful it is when we encourage people to amplify our hunted tweets for you to actually come and do that. And I will say a little bit more about that at my section of the meeting later tonight when I'm introducing tonight's Twitter storm. And with that, we can end the Twitter training, and it's back over to you, Rose.
Thank you, Julia, and welcome everybody. So happy to see you here this evening on a rather historic night. I'm excited. I'm sure you're all excited. For the maybe a few of you that don't know who I am, I'm Rose Colasino. I'm part of the Indivisible Illinois leadership team. I also work within the BOPA Task Force and Heartland Resistance Coalition. And I see two of my members here, Karen and Colleen. So great to see you guys here this evening. Usually you see Lenny sitting in this chair, but lo and behold, we're giving her the night off. It is her youngest child's birthday, sweet 16. And so rarity, but she is off celebrating with him. So again, really excited about this evening. I know you all had a lot of different options of places to go. There's about 101 plus events going on tonight. So thanks so much for being here with us this evening. A lot to be excited about. I'm personally very thrilled by the fact that VP Harris and Speaker Pelosi will be on the dais sitting behind President Biden. So let's take a picture of that. That is very, very, very exciting. And we are going to have some options for you starting at 8 o'clock. We hope that you stay with us through the whole evening. At 8 o'clock, we will be live streaming President Biden. And for those of you that are willing, and I hope it's almost everybody, we will be tweeting and we will be hopefully uplifting a lot of the messaging coming from President Biden. So what I ask you to do, if you don't mind, put in the chat what you're most excited about at 8 o'clock. Is it healthcare? Is it gun reform? Is it climate? Is it voting? One of my personal favorites. Is it racial equity? Everybody's favorite. So please let us know. And this hopefully is going to be a way for us not only to celebrate and enjoy ourselves, but also to start setting some goals, because we are getting closer and closer to 2022. And just on time, here is Nick. I just wanted to let you know that I will be turning over the wheel to Nick around 8 o'clock, and he'll be the gentleman that will be live streaming for us to watch President Biden. So we'll be in good hands there. Just a couple of more things to me, and then I'm going to get going with all of our speakers. I ask our speakers to be even a little more tight than usual because we hope to finish up before 8 o'clock. Because we want to make sure the transition is smooth, and I'm sure no one wants to miss one word of what is going to be said. So I found a really great synopsis. There's a lot out there about all the Biden and Harris accomplishments, but one of the gentlemen that I really appreciate and I followed for a long time is Ron Klain, someone that's a very key chief of staff for President Biden, and he summed it up pretty well. So first 100 days, which I think officially actually is, we're at 99, I think officially it is tomorrow. So in the first 100 days, historically, more new jobs than any president. So pretty outstanding. Probably this number has gone up since I quoted Klain, 200 million plus COVID shots. Also 1,400 checks to about 85% of Americans. And then last but not least, action on climate, action on guns, action on race. So a lot going on, a lot continuing to go on. I am going to control myself here. Usually this is when I give you a list of about 25 voting rights actions that we can take. I'm gonna just give you one. As we've talked about in the past, on May 8th, there is going to be a votercade in support of S1, but also mostly HR4. And these votercades, I lost track of the number, they're going to be happening across the country. We are, of course, promoting the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. So I'll put a link in the chat, either host, there is time if you are willing, or join the many, many events that are happening. We just had a meeting about it. There's events in Chicago, there's events in the north suburbs, there's events in Shawnee, I believe, and Schaumburg. Please, if I didn't mention your event, put that in the chat for us. And now let me just go over the agenda in a little more detail before I turn it over to the first speaker. The first speaker actually will be Julia Klein, and she will be talking about the Twitter storm that we're going to be having at 8 o'clock. Then we're really thrilled to have Saskia Young with us. She will be talking about national goals and objectives, a lot going on there. And then again, I'm pleased to have from my HRC team, Karen Egger, very important. We can finally talk about foreign affairs again. She will be talking about President Biden's foreign policy vision. After that, jam-packed, we have Etta Worthington. She's going to be talking about the latest from the Truth Brigade. Etta will be joining then Nicole Miller. This is something else that I'm really excited about. It's called May for Voters. It's a month-long campaign with daily events, actions throughout May, focusing on voter suppression. You know I'm going to be all over that. And then we have Bill Davis ending things for us, and he is going to be telling you about another event, and that's the NWSOFA after party, where NWSOFA will be talking about President Biden's address. So I'll take a breath, now, and I will turn it over to Julia.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for figuring out that the meeting was early. And thank you for paying attention to the Twitter Storm portion of the night. So we are going to be tweeting tonight while Biden talks. That's called live tweeting. And what we're doing tonight is a little bit different than what we've sometimes done before, in that we are not giving you all like a full-blown toolkit where you're supposed to like copy and paste and send out, 100 tweets out of your own account. Instead, a couple of things. So there is a document, an organizing document of sorts, that I am putting into the chat as we speak. We're calling it a toolkit because it is a curation of information, including a couple of toolkits that other people have put together about the various issues. And so we had an organizing meeting about tonight's Twitter storm a couple of nights ago, and we realized that, quite frankly, there is not much in the way of direct action right now in Illinois because we don't have any elections coming up, and all of these pieces of legislation that we want to pass is pretty much like Joe Manchin's got to get over himself and we can move some stuff. And then we do have the John Lewis votercade on May 8th. And there's several links in that toolkit I just put in the chat. One is for an event happening here on the South Side, and another one is for a virtual event. And please everybody should be able to edit on that toolkit for tonight. So if you have a votercade event in your area that you would like people to be talking about, feel free to add it. And there's just a lot of issues that are going on that people want to talk about, and a lot of things that people kind of have personal interest in what Biden will be sharing tonight. And so rather than being prescriptive, we thought we would just encourage folks to tweet whatever you feel like tweeting about tonight. And what we also came across, we had a large group on the Monday night planning meeting, and what it came across from all of us is that we're all sort of looking for some celebration. Like, we have been working hard, and there is so much bad news if you look for it, but there's a lot of good news too. And the second thing that we're looking for is some sense of unity and an understanding of who's in this fight with us. And so that's why what we're encouraging for tonight is that everybody use hashtag Indivisible IL in everything you tweet tonight. So tweet about whatever you want. Tweet about HR 1, tweet about HR 4, tweet about abolishing the filibuster, tweet about the voter suppression in Georgia. Whatever. I could go on and on and on. Tweet about whatever you want, and just include Indivisible IL. And then depending on how you do your tweeting, it can be, lightning fast if you're trying to live tweet during a speech. But if you get the chance, periodically pop into the Twitter search bar and do a search for Indivisible IL, and you'll see just the tweets from each other, because obviously it's not a nationwide hashtag, at least not yet. And so, and then when we see what each other is tweeting about, we can comment on it and thereby kind of amplify one another's tweets, but also get conversation going amongst each other. And we thought that it might be a nice approach for tonight that's a little bit different maybe than what we've done before. And if anybody doesn't know how to search for a hashtag on Twitter, DM me in the chat and I will show you how to do that when I turn it over. What I want to emphasize is that we're going to be tweeting while we're watching. So Biden will be speaking. Nick will be running that speech through this Zoom. So you don't need to go anywhere. Nick is going to run the speech through this Zoom. And we're also going to be live tweeting it or live streaming it out to Facebook. And so we can be chatting with each other here in the Zoom, but then we might as well be chatting with each other over on Twitter. And we can, as long as we're using that Indivisible IL hashtag, we're seeing each other's tweets, and then it's public. And so let me share the toolkit such that it is, just so you can see what we do have. That's the document that I just shared. but let me just give you a rundown of it. I gotta find it. There we go. Okay. So, okay. So up at the top here, and so directions on how to participate. As I just said, tweet whatever you want about whatever you want to tweet about. And if you do want some help, or if you want some GIFs, and I know that Bill, that's one of your favorite things is those GIFs, click on this link here, ideas and tools for tweets, and that will bring you down lower in the document. And we might as well just do that. Click on it, click the bookmark, that'll bring you down. Click here for the GIFs. So if you open up the GIFs, I think yep, we still have it. So here are a whole bunch of little GIFs on all these different topics. First 100 days, jobs plan, memes, vaccine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all you need to do is say that I want this meme for Twitter. You click on it, it will download the GIF to your computer, wherever you want it to get downloaded to. Then you go over to a Twitter window, you write your tweet, you add the GIF that you just downloaded, and you send out your tweet. If you don't know what I'm talking about, send me a private message. I'll help you out when I'm done with my portion here. So that's the GIFs. Then this is another so slick tool. Thank you, Demcast. So if you open up the Demcast, this is totally interactive. It's the slickest thing ever, and it takes a while to load. I can't believe that they put all this work into it. It's an amazing tool. So this is a page full of potential tweets, and they have all these different topics. GOP lies, and I'm reading this menu across the top here. Combating corruption, safe and accessible elections, getting big money out of politics, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever topic you want, you open up the page and it will give you a potential tweet. And so let's say that you want to tweet this one about Republicans are at war with the truth. You click on customize and share. I think it'll open me into a different window. So it'll pop open a Twitter window, and with this message here with the graphic and everything, you just double check that it's all right, that's the way you want it. Add our Indivisible IL hashtag and click tweet, and you're good to go. That's all you got to do for that. And there's tons of them, absolutely tons of them. So then going back to the toolkit, then we have, this is where we're getting into a little bit more proper toolkitty kinds of stuff. There is an organization that put together a toolkit about the American Rescue Plan that, of course, Biden will be talking about tonight, and it's in English and in Spanish. So that's pretty cool. So if you click on either one of these, it'll just open up a pretty standard issue toolkit. You know what to do with those. You copy and paste and send it out. And then here we've got some standard copy and paste tweets. They're a little bit different because I put in the little graphic for each one. I thought it was kind of cute, but it actually might make it hard to copy and paste. So, yell at me later if I screwed this up. And these, of course, are about criminal justice. So if Biden is talking and he's like, so American people, now let's talk, and I can't do a Biden impression, of course. How do you do a Biden? I can't begin to do a Biden impression. Can anybody do a Biden impression? I can't do one. Anyway, so American people, criminal justice, blah, 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 justice in America, blah, blah, blah. Whatever he says, at that moment, if you want to send something out, you can just jump in here and copy and paste something. And then we've got one tweet for gun safety, and then we ran out of energy. And we don't have anything more. But if you want to write some more stuff and put it in here, you can certainly do that. And then we go back up to the top of our toolkit here. Right. Then we have basically a list of all of the policies, issues, pressing legislation that we expect Biden might address tonight. And because there's a lot of it and because it's complicated, we've basically put in some links. So if you're not entirely sure what the Breathe Act is, here's a link. You can see about it. Or if you don't know what the Thrive Act is, here's a link. You can click and read more about it. The American Families Plan, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. I think that I'm 1 minute shy of my time. So I'm going to turn it back over to Rose, and or maybe straight over to Saskia. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing you on the Twitter. Indivisible IL, hashtag Indivisible IL. Oh, and put your Twitters in the chat. put your Twitters in the chat so that we can add you, so that we know who you are and I can follow you and all that kind of stuff. And I'll put my Twitter in the chat too. Over to you, Saskia and Rose.
Thank you so much, Julia, for the energy, for the excitement, and really happy to have another excellent speaker with us this evening. Saskia, all yours, my friend.
All mine. That is incredibly intimidating. Hello, everybody. My name is Saskia. I am the Associate Organizing Director for the Midwest at Indivisible. And you'll be seeing a lot more of me, I'm sure, over the next several months, years, however long I work at Indivisible. Who knows? They could fire me tomorrow. I have no idea. But I am here to give you a quick update on things that are going on the national level. And so I'm going to go through these incredibly quickly because we have things that we also need to get to. So here we go. You've already heard about the votercades. Those are happening on May 8th. They are the John Lewis Day of Action, and there are several links that are that are necessary for y'all to be able to either host an event or join an event or what have you. There's a lot going on in Illinois, so you can just hook up with another event, or if you want to, you can absolutely host an event. The next thing that I want to tell you about is the 4th of July recess. This is a huge thing. This is going to be our biggest action of the year so far. And basically we are planning to spearhead this event and recruit partners. And during those 2 weeks, which are from June 28th to July 9th, we'll be working with groups to do district office visits, lobby meetings, media events, and what have you. I know that July 4th is a real thing for some people, and so, or a lot of people rather. So wanted to get this into your brains as soon as humanly possible. It doesn't happen on July 4th. It can happen anytime between those dates I gave, which are June 28th to July 9th. But I hope that everybody will join us on that, and more information will be coming about that in the coming days, and you and I will make sure that you get it. There was going to be a POC caucus conversation. Keep your eye out for, I will let you guys know. I have to stop saying you guys. I am so sorry. I will let y'all know when it is rescheduled for, but it is going to be a great conversation about vaccine hesitancy in marginalized communities. And it's called the COVID-19 vaccine, increasing equity and decreasing hesitancy. And it's something that is incredibly important to all of us, because as we know, at this point in time, we are not going to be getting anywhere near herd immunity because there is a lot of vaccine hesitancy out there. And we need to know how to combat it and how to talk about it, particularly within marginalized communities. There is a conversation that is going to be happening as well, that is happening in the South, but everybody is welcome. And it's called Tough Talk, Tools for Anti-Racism Conversations with Friends and Family. And what this is a webinar about how to courageously and empathetically dialogue with your loved ones about anti-racism. We know that these conversations start at home. We know these conversations start at an incredibly grassroots level. And so this is happening on May 15th at 12 noon Eastern time. And there are already a lot of people signed up, which is great. And we hope you join us, because this is going to be an incredibly important conversation. And particularly if you are really dedicated to your anti-racist journey, this is going to be something that you're going to want to listen to. There are some Facebook training series. I will put those links in the chat. They're happening throughout the first couple of weeks of May. And if you want them, if you want to learn how to really use Facebook as an activist and really maximize your reach and maximize your capacity building, etc., this is going to be a great thing for you, especially if your group is living mostly on Facebook and you want to get them to move off of Facebook and into actually doing action. And then there are some other calls that I will absolutely put in the chat for y'all so that you can learn about them. There's the rural call, there's the Truth Brigade call, etc. I know I'm babbling a lot. I'm going to finish up with a couple of things. Number one, if you do not know already, there is a POC caucus within Indivisible. It is specifically for people of color, and we're hosting a series of national conversations on issues of concern to BIPOC communities. And so on the 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern, we are also still having that conversation about vaccine hesitancy, which will be great. If you are passionate about DC statehood, which you should, because we all want Black people to be able to vote, that is huge. There you can order a 51-star flag from us and present it to your member of Congress, take a picture with it, and tweet it and Facebook it or what have you. So those are the biggest things that I can tell you about what's going on nationally. I will start putting things in the chat momentarily, and I am going to shut up because that was a lot of random information, but I hope it was helpful. If y'all have any questions, please put them in the chat and I will answer them as we're going along. And I'm looking forward to tweeting with y'all in about 34 minutes.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Saskia. A lot of great programs. Thank you for your leadership. And I do want to remind everybody that this is a celebration. We haven't prepped Etta to prepare a cocktail for you, so it's up to all of us. If there's any cocktails you have in mind, I was speaking with Jeanette earlier. We have not found any Biden address kind of State of the Union sort of cocktails. He is a non-drinker, by the way, but if you have anything in mind and you can help us out, we would appreciate that. With that, I am going to turn it over to another friend, Karen Egger, to talk about foreign policy. All yours, Karen.
Okay, I'll be quick because nobody cares about international affairs. So, because I don't think anybody put it in the chat about what Biden's priorities should be for tonight. But I think that it's pretty clear. Many people do not have a real understanding of the impact of international affairs on life in Chicago, life in Illinois, life in the greater United States, and what it means for us individually. I think maybe I mentioned this the last time with the pandemic. It really perhaps has struck home more than ever the impact of an international issue on our personal lives. Just because people in the United States are getting vaccinated and the death toll is going down, the cases are going down, more and more people are dying every day in India particularly. And how many people in the Chicago community have family in India? Why should we care about India? It impacts our own personal lives. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about internationally. I mean, I could go through some of the budget priorities that Biden has listed for this budget proposal that will be introduced soon. I could talk about how Illinois is involved internationally, but I'll do a little quiz. Who is confirmed today as head of AID? Her name is Samantha Power. You may have heard of her before. Yeah, she was confirmed today by 68 to 26, I think. Anybody have an idea how many people will require humanitarian assistance this year in the world? Take a wild guess. Anybody? Wild guess? 2 billion. Nice one, Nick. Not quite that many. 235 million people will require humanitarian assistance this year. And remember, what percentage of the US total budget goes to international affairs? Y'all should know this one. Yeah, Bill? Yeah, it's less than 1% of the entire US budget goes to international affairs. So more close to home, like in Illinois, if y'all want to unmute yourselves, maybe you could just jump in and tell me which foreign companies employ most people from Illinois. I mean, foreign countries based in Illinois by employment, such as the Bank of Montreal employs most, is the biggest employer of Illinoisans of foreign countries. Can you name any other company that's here in Illinois that employs a large number of people? Okay, you've all heard of Siemens. You've all heard of HSBC. Perhaps you've heard of BP. Perhaps you've heard of Fiat Chrysler. They all employ a large number of people in Illinois. How about Illinois firms with overseas employment? Illinois-based companies who employ people overseas.
Like Caterpillar?
Like Caterpillar, yeah. Anybody else? Y'all probably go there for your medicine. Walgreens. Sometimes you might splurge and eat at this place called.
Oh. Well, McDonald's is a
McDonald's,
international
right.
company.
McDonald's is based in Illinois. Walgreens is based in Illinois.
Granite City has United States Steel, and they are a huge exporter. They're having some problems, but they are here in Granite City, Illinois.
They are not employing a lot. These are Illinois firms employing a large number of people overseas. So McDonald's, Walgreens, all of that. Caterpillar, another one that is you probably have heard about, Deere and Company, Abbott Laboratories, Archer Daniels Midland, all companies based in Illinois that have global reach. Maybe another way of looking at this is, and you probably know the answers to this, Illinois' top 10 partner countries. What countries does Illinois partner with as far as growth, economic growth, import, export? I'll give you the first one, Canada. Any idea
but
what the second one?
Wouldn't the other one be Mexico?
Mexico.
China?
China.
England? Would England be one or not? Because England and Walgreens would be together.
United Kingdom. Mhm.
Yeah, United
Yeah.
Kingdom.
Germany, Australia, Japan, Brazil, Netherlands, Hong Kong. And also, what are Illinois' top 10 exports?
Well, isn't grain and soybeans and all that
Agricultural
kind of
products, yeah. That's farther down on the list, actually. It's number 9 out of 10. Something that we always don't think about, machinery, is the #1 export for Illinois.
Yeah.
Chemicals, #2, computer and electronics products, #3, and so on. And #10 is plastics. You all remember plastics. Anybody know how many sister cities Chicago has? Does anybody know that Chicago has sister cities? Yes, okay. Anybody be able to name 1 or 2 of them?
I think there are 33. Is that correct?
I think it is 33. The last time I thought about this, there were 33. I didn't check, but yeah,
So I know Casablanca, Morocco
right.
is on there.
That's right.
Yeah, because I was on that
Yeah.
team for a while.
Great. Yeah. So, Sister City Chicago is, you don't hear about it very much, but, it's an attempt to bring Chicago to the world and the world to Chicago. A lot of it is connected with the ethnic communities that live here in Chicago. So that's just, quick overview of, Illinois is involved in the world. It relies greatly on its exports. It relies greatly on employing people from foreign companies based in Chicago. I don't know if any other, I think that's enough for tonight. We'll see.
Thank you, Karen, for, yes,
will
making
talk
us
about it.
smarter. You're going to have to come back. And Colleen and I did try to refrain because we had a team meeting yesterday, so we didn't want to cheat. But yeah, I'm just so thrilled. This is the space I started in, international affairs, and I'm thrilled that Biden is coming back and the Secretary of State and making a lot of headway. And I think I didn't keep great track, but Jody, I think you get the prize. Also, I did have a conversation with Jeanette before all this started. Jeanette, we have to talk. You have to come to one of our team meetings because Jeanette has if you couldn't tell, she has a lot of experience in foreign affairs as well. With that, because we're keeping tight here, I am going to turn it over to Etta. We have double Etta. She's going to talk about, as I said, Truth Brigade, and then she's going to join with Nicole. Good to see you again, Nicole. And I will let you take it from here, Etta. Thank you.
There, I'll start again. Since there's 2 of me, this is the other me. I don't know if all of you are familiar with Truth Brigade. It is a campaign, a series of campaigns from Indivisible National to tell the truth and to get us not to promote falsehoods online, disinformation, misinformation, because we often in social media respond to things and that amplifies it. So this is retraining ourselves to share the truth in their specific campaigns. They've done something really different. They are, for this month, for 4 weeks, it started 2 weeks ago, focusing on media and calling out the media instead of just generally getting out there and, having an issue. Specifically, this last 2 weeks, they wanted us to focus on 2 particular outlets, which were not doing a good job of sharing actually or using good sources. You probably are aware, because you watch the news, that the right wing really influences what the discussions are, what the dialogue is. And so this campaign that we've been working on is looking at how particularly the Associated Press and the New York Times is allowing the right wing to influence the sources that they use when they're writing messages or writing articles about issues on the border. And they are quoting Center for Immigration Studies, which is a right-wing, white nationalist organization. But they're quoting it like it's a genuine, real organization, not something out there. And so what they've wanted us to do the last couple of weeks, and I'll just put it in here, and then I'm going to tell you what they asked us to do tonight. And it might be relevant to what's happening, Julia, a little bit later. So if I can find Zoom, I've got so much here. I'm going to share what they wanted us to be tweeting the last couple of weeks. The situation in the border there is complicated, but the media shouldn't cite hate groups to portray both sides. When at AP quotes serial disinformer Center for Immigration Studies, it elevates anti-immigrant hate. AP, stop citing CIS, correct the record, Truth Brigade. There are both samples of some people, groups who have tweeted. So if you're tweeting, this is something you could pick up and do. We're only doing this tweeting at New York Times and Associated Press. We do not attack any journalist. Now tonight, I just got off a meeting and there's a new campaign and I think it might be relevant for what's happening. And it is looking at CNN. Here's a sample message, and I will copy and paste that because this is something you'll be able to use maybe sometime when you're tweeting tonight when he's Biden's speaking. The problem is conspiracy theories get much more attention than does a climate. For example, Anderson Cooper 360, in 2021, there have been 28 QAnon segments and 10 climate segments. New Day, which is another show on CNN, 58 QAnon segments in 2021, 38 climate segments. And so what we're doing is asking CNN to change what they're doing. Let news be news. Here is a sample one that I did, and it's a little long, so I had to divide it into a couple. But I will put it here in the chat. And this is what they're asking us to do. Like everyone else, I rely on the news to find out what's most important in the world. Pretty frustrating when the news covers conspiracies more than climate. This rewards dangerous groups that thrive on attention. At AC360 and at New Day, please let the news be news. Focus more on climate crisis, less on conspiracy. Hashtag Truth Brigade. I did that twice there. Well, you get it there. Anyhow, this might be something you kind of pick up and use some tonight. And what we're trying to do is move the media a little bit with these kind of tweets. I will also put in the chat box what the link is, and we will be putting up stuff on Indivisible Truth Brigade for us to be using too. And that's not going to happen right now, but because I just got off the call before I got on this one, but we'll get that in there too. And here's an explainer for this campaign. So, any questions? Any thoughts? It's a different approach. Now, if you're not on Twitter, you can say something on Facebook, or if you have a friend that's on Twitter, you can have them post this. And also, here's another thing. If you are not on Twitter, you could actually write an email to the organizations. We're not calling out individual journalists. We're calling out the network and saying they need to not be driven by those other people. And we're not saying QAnon in our tweets because we don't want to call attention to them. We're just calling them dangerous groups. So I'm going to put my other hat on. There.
Double duty. I thank Etta, and I give you Etta again with Nicole representing Western Front Indivisible and Oak Park Indivisible, a team effort. Ladies, over to you.
Yeah, and well, we're neighbors here, Forest Park and Oak Park, right next to each other. Those of you that don't quite know the geography, yeah, we just butt up right next to each other. I'm 5 blocks from Oak Park. Anyhow, and some of our members go to both groups. So Nicole and I had this conversation, and maybe some of you with your groups, you've had this feeling like, okay, what can we do to really engage people? Been this sort of a lull, and how can we get people excited? And then we thought, well, let's work together. And we had one of our happy hours, and Nicole came, and we talked about what people were most interested in. And what did they say? Voter suppression. That was a big thing. And so, I don't know, Nicole, was it your idea to do a month-long thing? I want to blame it on you.
I will accept the blame for that. I think it was a group effort, but I suggested that we do multiple events, and then we decided to just kind of focus in May, I think.
So Nicole has done a great job already. She's got a website going. Can you share that? Can she share?
Sure, I put the link in the chat. I can share it. Share screen. Oh, well, screen sharing is disabled, but you all can go there.
I can't help her do that. If someone else can help her share, I'd appreciate it.
I don't think it's really necessary. It's right now, it's we've scheduled, I guess, including the John Lewis Votercade, which I just added. We've got 6 event. Well, one event is this Monday, which isn't actually tied to the voting thing, but it is important. So if you feel like phone banking on Monday, please join us for the environment. The rest are events that we've planned right now, and we have some others coming up. We're doing some social media storms to raise awareness about voter suppression tactics, and also about the legislation nationally that's being pushed. And then also, I think the last number I heard was like there's 300 to 500 state legislative efforts to limit voting rights. And then we're going to do a protest at Home Depot to raise awareness of their support for the Georgia, I call it the anti-voting bill, even though it's being called the voting bill. It's not a voting bill. And then we're going to have some local speakers at the end of the month with speaking about voting rights and voting efforts. We also are doing pushing the postcards to voters, and doing some postcard parties, which I haven't put up here yet because some of them are at folks' homes. And so I want to make sure I have permission before I post people's.
Everybody knows where I live. If you come get me. Yeah, you know, we're trying to connect with those postcarders that, you know, that were so excited about Georgia. Well, we're going to try and bring them in and get them writing postcards to voters that are saying thank you for voting, and you know, keep up there. These are brand new voters, so we're trying to push that part. We're also going to be you know, getting trying to move them a little bit and see if they want to phone call to postcard writers in Virginia and ask them to send letters. Get letters to all their neighbors who are Democratic voters. But there's a whole bunch of things, and you know, we're trying to start doing some in-person things because we're so darn tired of Zoom, aren't we?
Yeah.
And you know, as long as we're vaccinated, I think we can do that, and if we do it outdoors. So we're going to have clipboards and postcards and the message so they don't blow away.
And we did a poll, and everyone in our Zoom had been vaccinated, which I think is fantastic. We also are adding, we're teaming up with Fair Fight, who's doing phone banks on Wednesdays to Georgian voters and continuing their efforts. So we're trying to kind of consolidate a lot of these efforts and raise awareness about them, and bring folks together on this issue, because I think we all know that 2020 2022 is going to be a real push, because it's going to be hard to get voters out in 2022 because they're going to be complacent. We've seen that before when progressives get into office. It's a lot easier for us to lose seats, and we've got to fight hard and start fighting now. So.
And if any of you guys want to join in with anything we're doing, please do. If you have ideas that you think we should consider, or if you have things happening that you want us to, encourage our groups to come and be involved with, let us know, because we're just gonna keep popping in May. We're gonna do stuff, and hopefully we'll find something that interests all of the people in our group and get somebody doing something.
I want to thank Nicole and Etta. This is outstanding, definitely right up my alley. And I feel like what you are doing is consolidating all the efforts that are out there, making it easy for us to hook in. This is something that's been one of the things that has been keeping me up at night, these voter suppression bills, and I have been tracking them. And thank you so much for putting this effort together. I think Rosie, newsletter flash, something maybe, if I could suggest, we can promote there. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be here with all of you. And Bill, if I can ask you to speak quickly, we would appreciate it as we transition. Bill has an event at 9 o'clock, but I understand that things are clicking at the state capitol, I guess, right, in DC. So sorry, Bill, if you could be brief, and then we'll go ahead and live stream.
All I can say is what a difference a day makes. And that day was January 20th, and we got a new president almost 100 days ago. And so tonight is a celebration. We're going to be listening, tweeting, kind of a rolling commentary about what we see. And then NWSOFA is going to host at 9 o'clock or shortly after Biden concludes his remarks. We're going to host a WebEx for people can join, do a recap, express how they felt, comment, and we'll go as long as the comments go. So everybody's invited. I already posted once, but I'll post our link for the WebEx in the chat in a few minutes, and let's have a lot of fun this evening. What a difference 100 days make. Back to you, Rose.
Okay, I don't know about you, but my screen froze. A lot going on with the live stream and the Zoom and the shares. But Bill, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure working with you closely these last couple of months on the Twitter storm, and look forward to seeing you again through the 8 o'clock hour and then at 9 o'clock. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick.
Look at that.
So
Two
exciting.
women.
Love it. Love it.
Love it.
Take a picture. I'll try not to give too much commentary, but I'm so excited.
Yeah, once the people on TV are talking, we can stop talking, but for the moment.
Are they holding hands? No.
Madam Speaker, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps. Madam Speaker, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Madam Speaker, representatives of the President's Cabinet.
Sorry to disappoint you this way. Hey! What you guys doing, man?
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Again, and again, and again, and again. Senator, you did a great job.
You messed up the first time, made you do it again.
Another gavel.
Madam Speaker, the President of the United States.
members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good to be back. As Mitch and Chuck will understand, it's good to be almost home, down the hall. Anyway, thank you all. Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President. No president has ever said those words from this podium. No president has ever said those words, and it's about time. First Lady, I'm her husband. Second Gentleman, Chief Justice, members of the United States Congress and the Cabinet, distinguished guests, my fellow Americans. While the setting tonight is familiar, this gathering is just a little bit different. A reminder of the extraordinary times we're in. Throughout our history, presidents have come to this chamber to speak to Congress, to the nation, and to the world, to declare war, to celebrate peace, to announce new plans and possibilities. Tonight, I come to talk about crisis and opportunity, about rebuilding the nation, revitalizing our democracy, and winning the future for America. I stand here tonight, one day shy of the 100th day of my administration. 100 days since I took the oath of office and lifted my hand off our family Bible and inherited a nation, we all did, that was in crisis. The worst pandemic in a century, the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. Now, after just 100 days, I can report to the nation, America is on the move again. Turning peril into possibility, crisis to opportunity, setbacks into strength. We all know life can knock us down, but in America, we never, ever, ever stay down. Americans always get up. Today, that's what we're doing. America's rising anew, choosing hope over fear, truth over lies, and light over darkness. After 100 days of rescue and renewal, America is ready for a takeoff, in my view. We're working again, dreaming again, discovering again, and leading the world again. We have shown each other and the world that there's no quit in America, none. 100 days ago, America's house was on fire. We had to act. And thanks to the extraordinary leadership of Speaker Pelosi, Majority Leader Schumer, and the overwhelming support of the American people, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, we did act. Together, we passed the American Rescue Plan, one of the most consequential rescue packages in American history. We're already seeing the results. We're already seeing the results. After I promised we'd get 100 million COVID-19 vaccine shots into people's arms in 100 days, we will have provided over 220 million COVID shots in those 100 days. Thanks to all the help of all of you. We're marshaling, with your help, everyone's help, we're marshaling every federal resource. We've gotten vaccines to nearly 40,000 pharmacies and over 700 community health centers where the poorest of the poor can be reached. We're setting up community vaccination sites, developing mobile units to get to hard-to-reach communities. Today, 90% of Americans now live within 5 miles of a vaccination site. Everyone over the age of 16, everyone is now eligible to get vaccinated right now, right away. Go get vaccinated, America. Go and get the vaccination. They're available. You're eligible now. When I was sworn in on January 20th, less than 1% of the seniors in America were fully vaccinated against COVID-19. 100 days later, 70% of seniors in America over 65 are protected, fully protected. Senior deaths from COVID-19 are down 80% since January, down 80% because of all of you. And more than half of all the adults in America have gotten at least one shot. A mass vaccination center in Glendale, Arizona, I asked the nurse, I said, "What's it like?" She looked at me and she said, "It's like every shot is giving a dose of hope," was her phrase, a dose of hope. A dose of hope for an educator in Florida who has a child suffering from an autoimmune disease. Wrote to me, said she was worried about bringing the virus home. She said she then got vaccinated at a large site in her car. She said she sat in her car when she got vaccinated and just cried out of joy and cried out of relief. Parents, seeing the smiles on their kids' faces for those who are able to go back to school because the teachers and school bus drivers and cafeteria workers have been vaccinated. Grandparents, hugging their children and grandchildren instead of pressing hands against the window to say goodbye. It means everything. Those things mean everything. You know, there's still, you all know it, you know it better than any group of Americans, there's still more work to do to beat this virus. We can't let our guard down. But tonight, I can say, because of you, the American people, our progress these past 100 days against one of the worst pandemics in history has been one of the greatest logistical achievements this country's ever seen. What else have we done in those first 100 days? We kept our commitment, Democrats and Republicans, of sending $1,400 rescue checks to 85% of American households. We've already sent more than 160 million checks out the door. It's making a difference. You all know it when you go home. For many people, it's making all the difference in the world. The single mom in Texas who wrote me, she said she couldn't work, but she said the relief check put food on the table and saved her and her son from eviction from their apartment. A grandmother in Virginia who told me she immediately took her granddaughter to the eye doctor, something she said she put off for months because she didn't have the money. One of the defining images, at least from my perspective in this crisis, has been cars lined up for miles. And not people just barely able to start those cars, nice cars, lined up for miles, waiting for a box of food to be put in their trunk. I don't know about you, but I didn't ever think I'd see that in America. And all of this is through no fault of their own. No fault of their own, these people are in this position. That's why the rescue plan is delivering food and nutrition assistance to millions of Americans facing hunger. And hunger is down sharply already. We're also providing rental assistance. You all know this, but the American people, I want to make sure they understand. Keeping people from being evicted from their homes. Providing loans to small businesses that reopen and keep their employees on the job. During these 100 days, an additional 800,000 Americans enrolled in the Affordable Care Act when I established a special sign-up period to do that. 800,000 in that period. We're making one of the largest one-time ever investments, ever, in improving health care for veterans. Critical investments to address the opioid crisis. And maybe most importantly, thanks to the American Rescue Plan, we're on track to cut child poverty in America in half this year. And in the process, while this was all going on, the economy created more than 1,300,000 new jobs in 100 days. More jobs in the first 100 days than any president on record. The International Monetary Fund is now estimating our economy will grow at a rate of more than 6% this year. That will be the fastest pace of economic growth in this country in nearly 4 decades. America's moving forward, but we can't stop now. We're in competition with China and other countries to win the 21st century. We're at a great inflection point in history. We have to do more than just build back better. We have to build back better. We have to compete more strenuously than we have. Throughout our history, if you think about it, public investment in infrastructure has literally transformed America, our attitudes as well as our opportunities. The Transcontinental Railroad, the interstate highways, united 2 oceans and brought a totally new age of progress to the United States of America. Universal public schools and college aid opened wide the doors of opportunity. Scientific breakthroughs took us to the moon. Now we're on Mars. Discovering vaccines gave us the internet, and so much more. These are investments we made together as one country, and investments that only the government was in a position to make. Time and again, they propel us into the future. That's why I proposed the American Jobs Plan, a once-in-a-generation investment in America itself. This is the largest jobs plan since World War II. It creates jobs to upgrade our transportation infrastructure, jobs modernizing our roads, bridges, highways, jobs building ports and airports, rail corridors, transit lines. It's clean water. And today, up to 10 million homes in America and more than 400,000 schools and child care centers have pipes with lead in them, including drinking water. A clear and present danger to our children's health. American Jobs Plan creates jobs replacing 100% of the nation's lead pipes and service lines, so every American can drink clean water. And in the process, we will create thousands and thousands of good-paying jobs. It creates jobs connecting every American with high-speed internet, including 35% of the rural America that still doesn't have it. This is going to help our kids and our businesses succeed in the 21st century economy. And I'm asking the Vice President to lead this effort, if she would, because I know it will get done. Creates jobs building a modern power grid. Our grids are vulnerable to storms, hacks, catastrophic failures with tragic results, as we saw in Texas and elsewhere during the winter storms. The American Jobs Plan will create jobs that lay thousands of miles of transmission lines needed to build a resilient and fully clean grid. We can do that. Look, the American Jobs Plan will help millions of people get back to their jobs and back to their careers. 2 million women have dropped out of the workforce during this pandemic. 2 million. And too often because they couldn't get the care they needed to care for their child or care for an elderly parent who needs help. 800,000 families are on the Medicare waiting list right now to get home care for their aging parent or loved one with disability. If you think it's not important, check out in your own district, Democrat or Republican, Democrat or Republican voters. Their great concern, almost as much as their children, is taking care of an elderly loved one who can't be left alone. Medicaid contemplated it, but this plan is going to help those families and create jobs for our caregivers with better wages and better benefits, continuing a cycle of growth. For too long, we've failed to use the most important word when it comes to meeting the climate crisis: jobs. 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 For me, when I think climate change, I think jobs. The American Jobs Plan will put engineers and construction workers to work building more energy-efficient buildings and homes. Electrical workers, IBEW members installing 500,000 charging stations along our highways so we can own the electric car market. Farmers planting cover crops so they can reduce the carbon dioxide in the air and get paid for doing it. Look, think about it. There is simply no reason why the blades for wind turbines can't be built in Pittsburgh instead of Beijing. No reason. None. No reason. So, folks, there's no reason why American workers can't lead the world in the production of electric vehicles and batteries. I mean, there is no reason. We have the capacity. We're the brightest, best trained people in the world. The American Jobs Plan is going to create millions of good-paying jobs, jobs Americans can raise a family on. As my dad would then say, with a little breathing room. And all the investments in the American Job Plan will be guided by one principle: buy American. Buy American. And I might note parenthetically, that does not violate any trade agreement. It's been the law since the 30s. Buy American. American tax dollars are going to be used to buy American products made in America to create American jobs. That's the way it's supposed to be, and it will be in this administration. And I made it clear to all my cabinet people, their ability to give exemptions has been strenuously limited. It will be American products. Now, I know some of you at home are wondering whether these jobs are for you. So many of you, so many of the folks I grew up with, feel left behind, forgotten, in an economy that's so rapidly changing. It's frightening. I want to speak directly to you, because you think about it. That's what people are most worried about. Can I fit in? Independent experts estimate the American Jobs Plan will add millions of jobs and trillions of dollars to economic growth in the years to come. It is an 8-year program. These are good paying jobs that can't be outsourced. Nearly 90% of the infrastructure jobs created in the American Jobs Plan do not require a college degree. 75% don't require an associate's degree. The American Jobs Plan is a blue-collar blueprint to build America. That's what it is. And it recognizes something I've always said in this chamber and the other. Good guys and women on Wall Street, but Wall Street didn't build this country. The middle class built the country, and unions built the middle class. So that's why I'm calling on Congress to pass Protect the Right to Organize Act, the PRO Act, and send it to my desk so we can support the right to unionize. And by the way, while you're thinking about sending things to my desk, let's raise the minimum wage to $15. No one working 40 hours a week, no one working 40 hours a week should live below the poverty line. We need to ensure greater equity and opportunity for women. And while we're doing this, let's get the Paycheck Fairness Act to my desk as well, equal pay. It's been much too long. And if you wonder whether it's too long, look behind me. And finally, American Jobs Plan will be the biggest increase in non-defense research and development on record. We'll see more technological change, and some of you know more about this than I do. We'll see more technological change in the next 10 years than we saw in the last 50. That's how rapidly artificial intelligence and so much more is changing. And we're falling behind the competition with the rest of the world. Decades ago, we used to invest 2% of our gross domestic product in America, 2% of our gross domestic product in research and development. Today, Mr. Secretary, that's less than 1%. China and other countries are closing in fast. We have to develop and dominate the products and technologies of the future. Advanced batteries, biotechnology, computer chips, clean energy. The Secretary of Defense can tell you, and those of you who work on national security issues know, the Defense Department has an agency called DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. The people who set up before I came here, and that's been a long time ago, to develop breakthroughs that enhance our national security. That's their only job. And it's a semi-separate agency. It's under the Defense Department. It's led to everything from the discovery of the internet to GPS and so much more that's enhanced our security. The National Institute of Health, the NIH, I believe, should create a similar advanced research projects agency for health. And here's what it would do. It would have a singular purpose: to develop breakthroughs to prevent, detect, and treat diseases like Alzheimer's, diabetes, and cancer. I'll still never forget when we passed the cancer proposal last year as vice president. Almost $9 million going to NIH. And if you excuse the point of personal privilege, I'll never forget you standing, Mitch, and saying, "Name it after my deceased son." It meant a lot. But so many of us have deceased sons, daughters, and relatives who died of cancer. I can think of no more worthy investment. I know of nothing that is more bipartisan, So let's end cancer as we know it. It's within our power. It's within our power to do it. Investments in jobs and infrastructure like the ones we're talking about have often had bipartisan support in the past. Vice President Harris and I met regularly in the Oval Office with Democrats and Republicans and discussed the jobs plan. And I applaud a group of Republican senators who just put forward their own proposal. So let's get to work. I wanted to lay out before the Congress my plan before we got into the deep discussions. I'd like to meet with those who have ideas that are different, they think are better. I welcome those ideas. But the rest of the world is not waiting for us. I just want to be clear. From my perspective, doing nothing is not an option. Look, we can't be so busy competing with one another that we forget the competition that we have with the rest of the world to win the 21st century. Secretary Blinken can tell you, I spent a lot of time with President Xi. Traveled over 17,000 miles with him. Spent, they tell me, over 24 hours in private discussions with him. When he called to congratulate him, we had a 2-hour discussion. He's deadly earnest about becoming the most significant, consequential nation in the world. He and others, autocrats, think that democracy can't compete in the 21st century with autocracies because it takes too long to get consensus. To win that competition for the future, in my view, we also need to make a once-in-a-generation investment in our families and our children. That's why I've introduced the American Families Plan tonight, which addresses 4 of the biggest challenges facing American families and in turn America. First is access to good education. When this nation made 12 years of public education universal in the last century, it made us the best educated, best prepared nation in the world. It's, I believe, the overwhelming reason that propelled us to where we got in the 20th century. But the world's caught up or catching up. They're not waiting. I would say parenthetically, if we were sitting down, we set a bipartisan committee together and said, okay, we're going to decide what we do in terms of government providing for free education. I wonder whether we'd think, as we did in the 20th century, that 12 years is enough in the 21st century. I doubt it. 12 years is no longer enough today to compete with the rest of the world in the 21st century. That's why my American Families Plan guarantees 4 additional years of public education for every person in America, starting as early as we can. The great universities in this country have conducted studies of the last 10 years. It shows that adding 2 years of universal high-quality preschool for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old, no matter what background they come from, puts them in the position to be able to compete all the way through 12 years and increases exponentially their prospect of graduating and going on beyond graduation. The research shows when a young child goes to school, not daycare, they're far more likely to graduate from high school and go to college or something after high school. When you add 2 years of free community college on top of that, you begin to change the dynamic. We can do that. And we'll increase Pell Grants and invest in historical black colleges and universities, tribal colleges, minority-serving institutions. The reason is they don't have the endowments. But their students are just as capable of learning about cybersecurity, just as capable of learning about metallurgy, all the things that are going on that provide those jobs of the future. Jill is a community college professor who teaches today as First Lady. She's long said, if I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. Joe, any country that out-educates us is going to outcompete us. She'll be deeply involved in leading this effort. Thank you, Jill. Second thing we need, American Families Plan will provide access to quality, affordable child care. We guarantee when I'm proposing the legislation, we guarantee that low and middle income families will pay no more than 7% of their income for high-quality care for children up to the age of 5. The most hard-pressed working families won't have to spend a dime. Third, the American Families Plan will finally provide up to 12 weeks of paid leave and medical leave, family medical leave. We're one of the few industrial countries in the world. No one should have to choose between a job and a paycheck, or taking care of themselves and their loved ones, or parent, or spouse, or child. And fourth, the American Family Plan puts directly into the pockets of millions of Americans. In March, we expanded tax credit for every child in a family, up to $3,000 per child if they're under 6 years of age. Over 6 years of age, and $3,600 for children over 6 years of age. With 2 parents, 2 kids, that's $7,200 in the pockets that are going to help take care of your family. And that will help more than 65 million children and help cut child care poverty in half. And we can afford it. So we did that in the last piece of legislation we passed. But let's extend that child care tax credit at least through the end of 2025. The American Rescue Plan lowered health care premiums for 9 million Americans who buy their coverage under the Affordable Care Act. I know that's really popular this side of the aisle. But let's make that provision permanent so their premiums don't go back up. In addition to my family's plan, I'm going to work with Congress to address this year other critical priorities for American families. The Affordable Care Act has been a lifeline for millions of Americans, protecting people with pre-existing conditions, protecting women's health, and the pandemic has demonstrated how badly it's needed. Let's lower deductibles for working families on the Affordable Care Act. And let's lower prescription drug costs. We know how to do this. The last president had that as an objective. We all know how outrageously expensive drugs are in America. In fact, we pay the highest prescription drug prices of anywhere in the world, right here in America. Nearly 3 times for the same drug, nearly 3 times what other countries pay. We have to change that, and we can. Let's do what we talked about for all the years I was down here in this body, in Congress. Let's give Medicare the power to save hundreds of billions of dollars by negotiating lower drug prescription prices. And by the way, it won't just help people on Medicare. lower prescription drug costs for everyone. And the money we save, which is billions of dollars, can go to strengthen the Affordable Care Act and expand Medicare coverage benefits without costing taxpayers an additional penny. It's within our power to do it. Let's do it now. We've talked about it long enough, Democrats and Republicans. Let's get it done this year. This is all about a simple premise. Health care should be a right, not a privilege in America. So, how do we pay for my jobs and family plan? I made it clear we can do it without increasing the deficits. Let's start with what I will not do. I will not impose any tax increase on people making less than $400,000. But it's time for corporate America and the wealthiest 1% of Americans to just begin to pay their fair share. Just their fair share. Sometimes I have arguments with my friends in the Democratic Party. I think you should be able to become a billionaire and a millionaire, but pay your fair share. A recent study shows that 55 of the nation's biggest corporations paid zero federal tax last year. Those 55 corporations made in excess of $40 billion in profit. A lot of companies also evade taxes through tax havens in Switzerland and Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. And they benefit from tax loopholes and deductions for offshoring jobs and shifting profits overseas. It's not right. We're going to reform corporate taxes so they pay their fair share and help pay for the public investments their businesses will benefit from as well. We're going to reward work, not just wealth. We take the top tax bracket for the wealthiest 1% of Americans, those making over $400,000 or more, back up to where it was when George W. Bush was president, when he started, 39.6%. That's where it was when George W. was president. We're going to get rid of the loopholes, allow Americans to make more than $1 million a year and pay a lower tax rate on their capital gains than Americans who receive a paycheck. We're only going to affect 0.3% of all Americans by that action, 0.3%. And the IRS is going to crack down on millionaires and billionaires who cheat on their taxes. It's estimated to be billions of dollars by think tanks that are left, right, and center. I'm not looking to punish anybody. But I will not add a tax burden, additional tax burden to the middle class in this country. They're already paying enough. I believe what I propose is fair, fiscally responsible, and it raises revenue to pay for the plans I propose and will create millions of jobs that will grow the economy and enhance our financial standing in the country. When you hear someone say, they don't want to raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% or corporate America, ask them, whose taxes you want to raise? Instead, whose are going to cut? Look, the big tax cut of 2017. Remember, it was supposed to pay for itself. That was how it was sold. And generate vast economic growth. Instead, it added $2 trillion to the deficit. It was a huge windfall for corporate America and those at the very top. Instead of using the tax saving to raise wages and invest in research and development, it poured billions of dollars into the pockets of CEOs. In fact, the pay gap between CEOs and their workers is now among the largest in history. According to one study, CEOs make 320 times what the average worker in their corporation makes. It used to be below 100. The pandemic has only made things worse. 20 million Americans lost their job in the pandemic, working and middle-class Americans. At the same time, roughly 650 billionaires in America saw their net worth increase by more than $1 trillion in the same exact period. Let me say it again. 650 people increased their wealth by more than $1 trillion during this pandemic. And they're now worth more than $4 trillion. My fellow Americans, trickle down. Trickle down economics has never worked. And it's time to grow the economy from the bottom and the middle out. You know, there's a broad consensus of economists left, right, and center, and they agree what I'm proposing will help create millions of jobs and generate historic economic growth. These are among the highest values investments we can make as a nation. I've often said our greatest strength is the power of our example, not just the example of our power. In my conversations with world leaders, and I've spoken to over 38, 40 of them now, I've made it known that America's back. And you know what they say? The comment I hear most of all from them is they say, we see America's back, but for how long? But for how long? My fellow Americans, we have to show not just that we're back, but that we're back to stay, and that we aren't going to go it alone. We're going to do it by leading with our allies. No one nation can deal with all the crises of our time, from terrorism to nuclear proliferation, mass migration, cybersecurity, climate change, as well as what we're experiencing now, pandemics. There's no wall high enough to keep any virus out. And our own vaccine supply, as it grows to meet our needs, and we're meeting them, will become an arsenal for vaccines for other countries, just as America is an arsenal for democracy for the world, and in consequence, influence the world. But every American will have access before that occurs. Every American will have access to be fully covered by COVID-19 from the vaccines we have. Look, the climate crisis is not our fight alone, it's a global fight. The United States accounts, as all of you know, less than 15% of carbon emissions. The rest of the world accounts for 85%. That's why I kept my commitment to rejoin the Paris Accord, because if we do everything perfectly, it's not going to only matter. I kept my commitment to convene a climate summit right here in America with all the major economies of the world: China, Russia, India, European Union. And I said I'd do it in my first 100 days. I want to be very blunt about it. My attempt was to make sure that the world could see there was a consensus, that we are at an inflection point in history. The consensus is if we act to save the planet, we can create millions of jobs and economic growth and opportunity to raise the standard of living of almost everyone around the world. If you watched any of it and you were all busy, I'm sure you didn't have much time. That's what virtually every nation said, even the ones that aren't doing their fair share. The investments I proposed tonight also advance the foreign policy, in my view, that benefits the middle class. That means making sure every nation plays by the same rules in the global economy, including China. In my discussion with President Xi, I told him, we welcome the competition. We're not looking for conflict. But I made absolutely clear that we will defend America's interest across the board. America will stand up to unfair trade practices that undercut American workers and American industries, like subsidies from state to state-owned operations and enterprises, and the theft of American technology and intellectual property. I also told President Xi that we'll maintain a strong military presence in the Indo-Pacific, just as we do with NATO and Europe, not to start a conflict, but to prevent one. I told them what I've said to many world leaders, that America will not back away from our commitments, our commitment to human rights and fundamental freedoms, and to our alliances. And I pointed out to him, no responsible American president could remain silent when basic human rights are being so blatantly violated. An American president has to represent the essence of what our country stands for. America is an idea, the most unique idea in history. We are created, all of us, equal. It's who we are. And we cannot walk away from that principle and, in fact, say we're dealing with the American idea. With regard to Russia, I know it concerns some of you, but I made very clear to Putin that we're not going to seek escalation, but their actions will have consequences if they turn out to be true, and they turned out to be true. So I responded directly and proportionately to Russia's interference in our elections and the cyber attacks on our government and our business. They did both of these things, and I told them we would respond, and we have. But we can also cooperate when it's our mutual interest. We did it when we extended the New START Treaty on nuclear arms, and we're working to do it on climate change. But he understands we will respond. On Iran and North Korea, nuclear programs that present serious threats to American security and the security of the world. We're going to be working closely with our allies to address the threats posed by both of these countries through diplomacy as well as stern deterrence. And American leadership means ending the forever war in Afghanistan. We have without hyperbole, the greatest fighting force in the history of the world. I'm the first president in 40 years who knows what it means to have a son serving in a war zone. Today, we have service members serving in the same war zone as their parents did. We have service members in Afghanistan who are not yet born on 9/11. The war in Afghanistan, as we remember the debates here, were never meant to be multi-generational undertakings of nation building. We went to Afghanistan to get the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11. And we said we would follow Osama bin Laden to the gates of hell to do it. If you've been in the upper Konar Valley, you've kind of seen the gates of hell. And we delivered justice to bin Laden. We degraded the terrorist threat of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. And after 20 years of valor, and sacrifice, it's time to bring those troops home. Look, even as we do, we'll maintain over-the-horizon capacity to suppress future threats to the homeland. And make no mistake, in 20 years, terrorism has metastasized. The threat has evolved way beyond Afghanistan. Those of you in the intelligence committees, the Foreign Relations Committee, defense committees, you know well, we have to remain vigilant against the threats to the United States wherever they come from. Al-Qaeda and ISIS are in Yemen, Syria, Somalia, other places in Africa, in the Middle East, and beyond. And we won't ignore what our intelligence agencies have determined to be the most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today. White supremacy is terrorism. We're not going to ignore that either. My fellow Americans, look, we have to come together to heal the soul of this nation. It was nearly a year ago before her father's funeral when I spoke with Gianna Floyd, George Floyd's young daughter. She's a little tyke, so I was kneeling down to talk to her. so I could look her in the eye. She looked at me, she said, "My daddy changed the world." Well, after the conviction of George Floyd's murderer, we can see how right she was if we have the courage to act as a Congress. We've all seen the knee of injustice on the neck of Black Americans. Now's our opportunity to make some real progress. The vast majority of men and women wearing a uniform and a badge serve our communities, and they serve them honorably. I know them. I know they want. I know they want to help meet this moment as well. My fellow Americans, we have to come together to rebuild trust between law enforcement and the people they serve, to root out systemic racism in our criminal justice system, and to enact police reform in George Floyd's name that passed the House already. I know Republicans have their own ideas and are engaged in a very productive discussions with Democrats in the Senate. We need to work together to find a consensus. But let's get it done next month, by the first anniversary of George Floyd's death. The country supports this reform, and Congress should act. We have a giant opportunity to bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice, real justice. And with the plans outlined tonight, we have a real chance to root out systemic racism that plagues America and American lives in other ways. A chance to deliver real equity, good jobs, good schools, affordable housing, clean air, clean water, being able to generate wealth and pass it down through generations because you have an access to purchase a house. Real opportunities in the lives of more Americans, Black, white, Latino, Asian Americans, Native Americans. Look, I also want to thank the United States Senate for voting 94-1 to pass the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act to protect Asian American and Pacific Islanders. You acted decisively. You can see on television the viciousness of the hate crimes we've seen over this past year and for too long. I urge the House to do the same and send that legislation to my desk, which I will gladly, anxiously sign. I also hope Congress will get to my desk the Equality Act to protect LGBTQ Americans. To all transgender Americans watching at home, especially young people, you're so brave. I want you to know your president has your back. Another thing, let's authorize the Violence Against Women Act, which has been law for 27 years. "27 years ago, I wrote it. It'll close the act that has to be authorized now, will close the boyfriend loophole to keep guns out of the hands of abusers. The court order said this is an abuser. You can't own a gun. It's to close that loophole that existed. You know, it's estimated that 50 women are shot and killed by an intimate partner every month in America. 50 a month. Let's pass it and save some lives. And I need not tell anyone this, but gun violence has become an epidemic in America. The flag at the White House was still flying at half-mast for the 8 victims of the mass shooting in Georgia, when 10 more lives were taken in the mass shooting in Colorado. And in the week in between those two events, 250 other Americans were shot dead in the streets of America. 250 shot dead. I know how hard it is to make progress on this issue. In the 90s, we passed universal background checks. a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines that hold 100 rounds that can be fired off in seconds. We beat the NRA. Mass shootings and gun violence declined. Check out the report over 10 years. But in the early 2000s, the law expired. We've seen daily bloodshed since. I'm not saying if the law continued, we wouldn't see bloodshed. More than 2 weeks ago in the Rose Garden, surrounded by some of the bravest people I know, the survivors and families who lost loved ones to gun violence, I laid out several of the Department of Justice actions that are being taken to impact on this epidemic. One of them is banning so-called ghost guns. These are homemade guns built from a kit that includes directions how to finish the firearm. The parts have no serial numbers, so they show up at crime scenes and they can't be traced. The buyers of these ghost gun kits aren't required to pass any background check. Anyone, from a criminal or terrorist, could buy this kit and within 30 minutes have a weapon that's lethal, but no more. And I'll do everything in my power to protect the American people from this epidemic of gun violence, but it's time for Congress to act as well. Look, I don't want to become confrontational, but we need more Senate Republicans to join the overwhelming majority of Democratic colleagues and close the loopholes required in background check purchases of guns. We need a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. And don't tell me it can't be done. We did it before and it worked. Talk to most responsible gun owners and hunters. They'll tell you there's no possible justification for having 100 rounds in a weapon. What do you think, deer wearing Kevlar vests? They'll tell you that there are too many people today who are able to buy a gun but shouldn't be able to buy a gun. These kinds of reasonable reforms have overwhelming support from the American people, including many gun owners. The country supports reform and Congress should act. This shouldn't be a red or blue issue. And no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. From the very beginning, there were certain guns, weapons, that could not be owned by Americans. Certain people could not own those weapons ever. We're not changing the Constitution. We're being reasonable. I think this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. I think it's an American issue. And here's what else we can do. Immigration has always been essential to America. Let's end our exhausting war over immigration. For more than 30 years, politicians have talked about immigration reform, and we've done nothing about it. It's time to fix it. On day one of my presidency, I kept my commitment and sent a comprehensive immigration bill to the United States Congress. If you believe we need to secure the border, pass it because it has a lot of money for high-tech border security. If you believe in a pathway to citizenship, pass it. It's over 11 million undocumented folks, the vast majority of here overstaying visas. Pass it. We can actually, if you actually want to solve a problem, I've sent a bill to take a close look at it. We also have to get at the root problem of why people are fleeing, particularly to our southern border from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. The violence, the corruption, the gangs, the political instability, hunger, hurricanes, earthquakes, natural disasters. When I was president, when I was vice president, the president asked me to focus on providing help needed to address the root causes of migration. And it helped keep people in their own countries instead of being forced to leave. The plan was working, but the last administration decided it was not worth it. I'm restoring the program and asked Vice President Harris to lead our diplomatic effort to take care of this. I have absolute confidence she'll get the job done. Now look, if you don't like my plan, let's at least pass what we all agree on. Congress needs to pass legislation this year to finally secure protection for dreamers. The young people have only known America as their home. And permanent protection for immigrants who are here on temporary protective status who came from countries beset by man-made and natural-made violence and disaster, as well as the pathway to citizenship for foreign workers who put food on our tables. Look, immigrants have done so much for America during this pandemic and throughout our history. The country supports immigration reform. We should act. Let's argue over it. Let's debate it, but let's act. And if we truly want to restore the soul of America, we need to protect the sacred right to vote. Most people more people voted in the last presidential election than any time in American history, in the middle of the worst pandemic ever. It should be celebrated. Instead, it's being attacked. Congress should pass H.R. 1 and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and send it to my desk right away. The country supports it, and Congress should act now. Look, in conclusion, as we gather here tonight, the image of a violent mob assaulting this Capitol, desecrating our democracy, remain vivid in all our minds. Lives were put at risk, many of your lives. Lives were lost. Extraordinary courage was summoned. The insurrection was an existential crisis, a test of whether our democracy could survive, and it did. But the struggle is far from over. The question of whether our democracy will long endure is both ancient and urgent. As old as our republic, still vital today. Can our democracy deliver on its promise that all of us, created equal in the image of God, had a chance to lead lives of dignity, respect, and possibility? Can our democracy deliver to the most pressing needs of our people? Can our democracy overcome the lies, anger, hate, and fears that have pulled us apart? America's adversaries, the autocrats of the world, are betting we can't. And I promise you, they're betting we can't. They believe we're too full of anger and division and rage. They look at the images of the mob that assaulted the Capitol as proof that the sun is setting on American democracy. But they're wrong. You know it, I know it. But we have to prove them wrong. We have to prove democracy still works, that our government still works, and we can deliver for our people. In our first 100 days together, we've acted to restore people's faith in democracy to deliver. We're vaccinating the nation. We're creating hundreds of thousands of new jobs. We're delivering real results to people. They can see it, feel it in their own lives. Opening doors of opportunity, guaranteeing some more fairness and justice. That's the essence of America. That's democracy in action. Our Constitution opens with the words, as trite as it sounds, we the people. Well, it's time to remember that we the people are the government, you and I. Not some force in a distant capital. Not some powerful force that we have no control over. It's us. It's we the people. In another era, when our democracy was tested, Franklin Roosevelt reminded us, in America, we do our part. We all do our part. That's all I'm asking, that we do our part, all of us. And if we do that, we will meet the center challenge of the age by proving that democracy is durable and strong. Autocrats will not win the future. We will. America will. And the future belongs to America. As I stand here tonight before you in a new and vital hour of life and democracy of our nation, and I can say with absolute confidence, I have never been more confident or optimistic about America. Not because I'm president, because of what's happening with the American people. We've stared into the abyss of insurrection and autocracy, pandemic and pain, and we, the people, did not flinch. At the very moment our adversaries were certain we'd pull apart and fail, we came together, we united. With light and hope, we summoned a new strength, new resolve to position us to win the competition of the 21st century. On our way to a union more perfect, more prosperous, and more just, as one people, one nation, and one America. Folks, as I told every world leader I've ever met with over the years, it's never, ever, ever been a good bet to bet against America, and it still isn't. We're the United States of America. There's not a single thing, nothing beyond our capacity. We can do whatever we set our minds to if we do it together. So let's begin to get together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Thank you.